Hello and welcome to this ESS Environmental Systems and Societies revision video, and today we are going to be looking at human resources usage and what impacts the carrying capacity has on human populations. So relatively short video actually, this one, but it's still key to remember. So first of all, you need to understand what the carrying capacity is. So the carrying capacity is the maximum number of species or the environmental load that a environment can sustainably support, i.e. what a given area can sustainably support. So for example, the United Kingdom would have the land mass of the UK would have a certain sustainable carrying capacity of humans before we started causing massive damage and stopping and then having to import goods. So it has a difficulty to measure for humans, and that is because humans have a great use of resources compared to other species. So what I mean by this is that we don't just eat food. It's quite difficult to measure that. The use of oil, for example, and the use of plastics, for example. We will often substitute one resource for another. So what I mean by that is if we were to run out of crude oil, for example, we in theory could replace that by using other energy resources and using plant oils to make plastics. The resources use vary depending on people's lifestyles. So for example, if you live in the countryside, you're less likely to use as many resources as if you work in the city. If you live in different countries, your different likelihood is to have an impact. Import resources around from our immediate environment. So for example, if you've eaten rice and you're sat in the UK, you haven't grown that rice in the UK, so therefore it's difficult to look at the immediate environment's carrying capacity unless you look at it from a whole global perspective. And technological increases can increase efficiency. So what can happen is the carrying capacity could be at a certain level, then we have improvements in technology which can increase the carrying capacity to another level. Now, the carrying capacity, according to humans, we like to think humans can change things, and we know we can. Depending on where your environmental standpoint comes here, depends on what you might think we should do. So an ecocentrist, and don't forget ecocentrists think that have the opinion that the earth and nature is the most important things, and humans are second to that, and that we should look after nature and that will help us look after ourselves. They feel that we should reduce the carrying capacity effectively by reducing the use of non-renewable resources, minimizing the use of renewable ones as well. Some people will drop off the grid and become self-sufficient, and that can include stuff like growing your own and collecting rainwater. Technocentrists, however, always say technology will increase in time, and therefore we can maintain and increase our population as a result. However, there is one point that needs to be pointed out here, is just by increasing technology, we may be able to get more food, for example, but by getting more food, we can actually be damaging the environment. So we know intensive farming will often limit the amount of nutrients and resources in the environment, and therefore and damage like soil quality, and therefore in the long term it can cause problems. One thing we can do to reduce our impact on the environment and therefore not reach our resource carrying capacity is by using recycling or reusing. You need to know the key differences between these terms. So the first term here is reusing. So to reuse something is to use it multiple times. So you might buy a bottle of Coca-Cola, drink the bottle, refill it, drink the bottle, refill it. That is reuse. Recycling is when you take that Coke bottle and you use the material to remake a new product. So, for example, aluminium cans would be a good example, that we melt down aluminium and we use it to make other aluminium products. And that means we're saving the raw material. We don't need to get any more aluminium out of the ground, and also we don't need to use that energy. Now, remanufacturing, okay, is when we might use the material to make a new object of the same type. So what we mean by that is we might make a new type of plastic bottle from an old plastic bottle. Okay, an absolute reduction is when we use less resources and less energy. So This then can be, for example, in terms of that, we could, for example, use less packaging, for example, and we could reduce the actual resources we use. But often the benefits of this, if we're using less energy or less resources, can be then impacted by the population increasing as a result of the population, therefore can take away that benefit. Ecological footprints then you need to be aware of. An ecological footprint is the area of land and water required to support a defined population at a given living standard. So if your ecological footprint is bigger, then your ecological footprint is causing more damage. You would effectively require more land to make it sustainable. It is unsustainable if your ecological footprint is greater than the area available to the population. So currently the world population, the ecological footprint is much greater than it used to be, and that is going to mean long term we will run out of resources because we're using them up quicker than they can be replenished as a result. So the world's biocapacity is far exceeded nowadays compared to our population. That doesn't mean we run out of resources immediately. It means they're not being replenished. So at some point in the future, we will run out of resources. And there's something called the fair earth share, and this is where you work out your own ecological footprint and basically you work out how much resources you could have. So if the amount of land was divided equally, this would be your earth share and whether you could survive on it. And different countries, if you just look at the countries, have different footprints and therefore different earth shares. So the countries with the highest ecological footprint you can see here, or the highest different areas, Luxembourg, USA, again, they have different aspects depending on the resource use that they have in that country.